everybody, I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is Congressman Tim Burchett. Congressman, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Big news. I want to get your reaction to it, so let's get to it right away. President Biden over the weekend pardoned his son Hunter Biden, and the move effectively erases tax and gun convictions against the president's son. It comes as a reversal, as the president and his administration has repeatedly said that they would not consider pardoning Hunter Biden. Clearly, that's not the case. What's your reaction?
Well, I'm not surprised by any of it. I figured he was going to have to do that pretty soon. And I suspect there'll be more coming down the pike. I suspect his brother as well, the president's brother as well. We went through this thing, and there's over $20 million that even I found. And I said, for Tim Burchett to find something like that, it's pretty blatant. So I suspect there's a lot more out there. I was not surprised. I was a little surprised at how fast the media switched from he won't lie, he's an honorable man, to, well, it's his son. What did you expect? I mean, they just turned on a dime, and I predicted that. And of course, they did it almost instantly. And so not surprised one bit.
What do you think of the "it's his son" reaction? Because that has been the reaction from some Democrats. They've been split into two camps, and I'll get their other reaction in a second. But some have said this is politically motivated. One of your colleagues in the House Oversight Committee, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, said just that. President Biden said this: "I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president would come to this decision." What's your reaction to that defense?
I think that's just political bull. It's not politically motivated, ma'am. I mean, this is a classic example of a guy who was enabled his entire life, spoiled, and literally was allowed to break the law on the world stage and was given a free pass, which no one else would be given. Could you imagine? I wonder what Jasmine Crockett's response would be of President Trump if he'd done the same for Barrett. So I don't buy that. I mean, I understand her playing the political role, but nobody's buying that.
Some Democrats have spoken out against it. I want to read their responses. Colorado Governor Jared Polis said this: Hunter brought the legal trouble he faced on himself, and one can sympathize with his struggles while also acknowledging that no one is above the law, not a president, and not a president's son. And Senator Michael Bennet said this, quote, "President Biden's decision put personal interests ahead of duty and further erodes Americans' faith that the justice system is fair and equal for all." What do you think of the Democrats who are agreeing with you here?
I think they all think they might have a shot at national office, and they realize that the rank and file Democrats, your moderate Democrats that have been left behind by this election process have, and the working class Democrats realize that they don't buy the argument that there's two systems of justice. There's just one system of justice, and that's what they adhere to. And I salute them for it, but I'd say every one of those that does that thinks they might have a shot at something national.
The House Oversight Committee, which you're a part of, has been investigating the Biden family, including Hunter Biden. Does this mean that that's the end of the road in these investigations? What does that look like? Are you going to be investigating other Biden family members?
There's been some talk of somebody going to try to impeach the president again. I just don't think there's enough time. And I assume after it's all over next year, we'll probably start looking at some of the others. I think that's important to do that if they did in fact break the law. And I hope that we look at all of government and all the people that's involvement with government that have had crooked dealings. I hope that we widen that search a lot, because I felt like we've just barely scratched the surface on this thing. Honestly, if Tim Burchett can find $20 million money that's flowed through this crime family, there's got to be a lot more.
Do you support impeaching President Biden over this, or are you just saying, hey, there's not enough time, there's about 7 weeks left of his presidency?
No, I just don't think there's enough time to even delve into that. I'd say under any other circumstances, it would be, it would be worth looking into. But now I just think there's not enough time, and it's you're beating a dead horse. But I do think the gloves have come off. I don't think anybody's going to remain loyal to Joe Biden much longer.
I want to talk about the wording of this pardon because it was vague. It's a full and unconditional pardon. It's sweeping, covers 2014 through yesterday, December 1st, 2024. An expert told Politico that with the exception of Nixon's pardon, they've never seen such a broad pardon. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think it kind of leaves a lot of things out there. I wonder if it pardons him for things that he hasn't been charged for. And it was so vague, I thought it almost meant like the 10 or 11 years that it just left it wide open. Anything that was done during that time, he would be pardoned for. And that kind of throws water on the thought that this was just politically motivated because of the fact that he has committed some crimes, obviously. I mean, the pistol one was one, and there's question of whether the trafficking is involved in that. There's just other things. I just think it was overly broad, and I agree with that assumption.
Congressman, I'm looking at the political implications here. Do you think that this sets a precedent that no one's above the law except the president, a president's family member, or perhaps someone close to the president?
I think that's exactly what it says, is that there are two systems of law in this country, and that you're seeing it right now. It's us and them. It's the big boys in power versus the regular America who never gets a break.
Congressman,
I've seen reports now that he's back due on some rent. Even does this excuse? And this might even excuse that. So it's just a complete erasure of his past, and to me, that's very unsettling.
Congressman, I would love to switch gears here and get your reaction to some news made a few days ago. President-elect Donald Trump selected his ally, Kash Patel, to serve as the FBI director. What are your thoughts on the pick?
I think it's a great pick. We got a real problem at the Justice Department, and by replacing the head is not going to erase the bad behavior. You're going to need somebody like Kash Patel who gets it, who has openly been a critic of this Justice Department, and that will clean house. It's the third, fourth level tier of people that your real problems are, that remain in power regardless of who is the head of it. And I think President Trump realizes that from his first term to this term.
Kash Patel isn't necessarily a household name. Do you know him personally? What insight can you give us there?
Well, I know enough of him. I know he's very loyal to the president. I know he stands up for law and order. I know he has been prosecuted, or persecuted, I should say, in the past, and that gives him some very good credentials. And for the Washington elite, the sewer, if you will, to be so critical of him makes me like him even more.
I want to expand on that a little bit because you think his loyalty to President Trump is a good thing. Critics have pointed that out, saying not so much. The Atlantic reported this about him, quote, Patel appeared singularly focused on pleasing Trump, and Patel was dangerous because, quote, he appeared to have no plan at all. His priorities today, always subject to a mercurial president's wishes tomorrow. What do you make of that criticism?
Well, I think we had some people that weren't loyal to President Trump before, and undermined everything that he did. He was elected to do a job, President Trump was, and that job is to clean up the sewer that is Washington, D.C. And I have very high hopes for Kash Patel, because I have seen the weaponization of these departments. Families that would have the gall to go to a school board meeting and question their school board members and then be labeled domestic terrorists, people that have been arrested in the middle of the night in their underwear in front of their kids at gunpoint, that go out and protest in front of an abortion clinic, something that is very abhorrent to a lot of Americans, but also the fact that that is something that's uniquely American. And to think that they're not allowed to do that, to me, is and then labeled as some sort of terrorist or arrested, for that fact, to me, is beyond belief. And that's the kind of thing he will clean up.
Just looking at the numbers, only a few Republicans can defect, can vote against this, and the confirmation won't go through. Do you think that Kash Patel will get confirmed?
I do, because I think that the U.S. Senate realizes the mandate that this president has, and I think they realize they should. If they don't, they're not paying attention. The unbelievable anger that this country has with Washington.
Congressman, let's look into the future. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, Kash Patel does get confirmed. What would you want to see him day one do as the FBI director?
I would like him to send the FBI agents out to do what they're supposed to do, to arrest criminals and quit being bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. And if they don't want to do the job, they need to be fired.
Congressman Tim Burchett, per usual, I appreciate the conversation. Thank you so much for joining me. You're welcome back anytime.
Ma'am, this is always my pleasure, and it just amazes me the number of people when I'm on with you say that they saw me and how great an interview it is and how well you do. So thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.